What's up, people? Welcome to a brand new episode of Wrestle Update. I'm your host, Dylan Fox. We are back to talk about something very special. Whenever we do these episodes, I always come in. I'm always a little skeptical. I've always got my expectations set at a certain level. But this one, the hype was real. Everything about this was meant to be basically this company's biggest show in the history of their company because it was a follow-up to an incredibly poorly received show the first time around. They entered this Hammerstein Ballroom, but GCW took on the people, and we are here to judge. We don't need a jury. There may be some executions that need to be dealt out on here, and to help with that, who better than my good friend, somebody I love nearly and dearly in my heart. Days before my birthday, we are doing this. But of course, Bella de Angelis. It's so good to talk to you again.
Happy early 21st birthday. It's going to be wild.
To be honest, this birthday was probably a lot wilder than my actual 21st birthday. No, I'm turning 33, to be honest with you.
That's right. We're the same exact age. I turned 33 in March.
Well, happy early birthday to you as well on that end. But I always say the birthday is not important. It's that I still look exceptionally young for my age. I get that as well. Let me tell you something. All right, this suddenly turned into something that I never wanted it to turn into. But I just got a comparison today. So we had been talking, me and you, before the show. And long story short, I was in the middle of moving for all sorts of tragic and terrible reasons. But, we had moved over to the other side of town, or we were looking to move over to the other side of town. And I was talking to people there and everything. And one of the people that I ended up talking to over on that side of town, she was talking to me, and it was a woman, of course, and we were talking. And she suddenly looked at me. And we were walking because, we were down by the river and stuff, and we were having a talk about all kinds of stuff, about life, as we do. Lots of fun subjects, not to get too deep into it, but it was just a fun little conversation, nothing too serious. We were hanging out. I was drinking a Baja Blast. We'd stopped at Taco Bell on the way. But she looked at me and she said, from the side, you look like all I heard was Takahashi. And so I was thinking, oh my God. Did she say I looked like Yujiro or Hiromu on there? But I was asking her, I was like, what are you talking about? And she was talking about, so she claimed I look like Keihan Takahashi, a very famous volleyball player in Japan.
Of course.
Yes. And I was like, I had the same reaction. I was like, of course. Like, why?
Yeah, not obscure reference at all.
No. Why did you bring that up? Exactly. And she was going on about like, she's like, I know you're half Asian and all this, and he was like, he's half Asian too. He's like half Iranian or something. And she was going on this long story on it. But then when I looked him up, I was like, hey, this guy looks really good. She thinks I'm handsome. This is freaking cool. Like I said on there. So it shows you, Nello, like a long-winded way. Not that I could compare myself to the great Takahashi, Keihan Takahashi, of volleyball fame. But I think it goes to show what matters is what you look like. What matters is what's in your spirit. What matters is what's in your soul and your heart at the end of the day, more than anything else, even more than what you look like. Although I do have very long hair. You didn't expect that story to start us off, did you?
No, I thought we were going to hard left into like Yakuza or something again, honestly.
Well, they do have a new game coming out next month.
Yeah, the pirate one.
We're gonna find out what Joe is doing in there on that show. I'm very interested in that game. I still have to say that they have yet to grab me at a non Kiryu Yakuza game. In my opinion, or Like a Dragon. I mean, I like the other ones. I love the series so much. But I really feel like we've yet to hit the peak that it was at when Kiryu was the main guy, and you were just kind of flowing around. I mean, I guess that's probably why they kind of brought it back in the latest one before this. infinite wealth and all. Which I mean, the story in that was a jump the shark moment in multiple ways as well. That's another thing that kind of hurt it. I mean, that game series has always had kind of crazy plot lines, but I think they kind of jumped the shark.
I'm only on 5. Like I'm finishing
one of the best ones.
Right now. Yeah, no spoilers. I just finished hunting.
I love the hunting game. I spent so many hours on that.
Yeah, same. Yeah. Too many. Too many.
And what it is, yeah. So you finished the hunting mini game.
Yep.
Where you are now friends with the bear that ate Sato.
Yes, and I just got to the city.
Have you used his attack, Taijima's attack, where you turn somebody into a giant snowball and that kills them?
No.
That's a special attack that you have to look out for. Okay.
That's so funny.
It's very funny to play it as, but 5 is still like. I always say Kiwami 2 is my favorite because of the storyline and the ending and all.
The dragon versus the dragon.
Oh, amazing. Like epic boss battle that was never. And I've said it before that I'm a sucker for anything in romance. So the ending, I was like, I know people think that this was kind of like extra how they did it, but I was like clutching my pillow and like almost in tears at that ending after what happens after you fight the dragon versus the dragon. So I loved Kiwami 2, but as a game, because you play so many different people, you get to do all of this stuff with Haruka. You get the special mini games and stuff. There's so much variety in playing all of these people that that really stands out to me as like the best of the series, in my opinion. But they're all great. Like even the later ones, they're all great, and I can't wait to play Pirate King. So. It'll be great to get back, getting back into Majima style and all the craziness that will ensue. I'm kind of surprised that nobody on this show dressed like a dragon character, especially Majima, because he really fits the GCW style, I would say. Although, on the other hand, we did have a Paramore gear alert check that was posted on Twitter, so we did like that.
That was cool. Shut up, Brooke Havoc.
Yeah, Brooke Havoc rules. And Riot, one of the best albums for sure. There, like love it. I can go through all of that track list. That was like my era of Paramore. But regardless, we have a show to talk about here. Again, the people versus GCW. And as always, let's talk about it where you were at going into the show. Because, like I said, the hype levels for this show were extremely strong. Like, they were all over the place. Tons of talk about, because basically the main storyline, and every match had storylines into it. I think you have to say what you want about the overall quality of the show. You cannot deny that there was an effort put into making each match feel like it meant something.
Yeah, even like the ECW 6-man or whatever, right? Like that had a video package.
Yep, absolutely, and absolutely. And along with the overall overarching storyline of the show, which is they made this huge deal about going to Hammerstein Ballroom. And the first show they did there was a legendary bust. Like, everyone realizes it sucks. Even they admit that it sucks. And that was kind of the storyline.
Let's, real quick before we jump into this show, want to analyze why that show was considered a failure. Yeah. And the big reasons were, a lack of GCW identity. None of the GCW homegrown stars went over. You had Ruby Soho beating Alley Catch, Jeff Jarrett beating Effie.
Yeah.
I think it was Matt Cardona beating Joey Janela. I think they fought that last time. And this was like when Cardona had first come in. Or shortly after, within a few months. But those were the main criticisms. Like, from what I remember, it was just that it didn't feel like a GCW show. It felt so toned down, and it was just very lackluster, and it was a lot of disappointing booking decisions.
Yeah, even like the main event, remember on that show?
And that was big difference there because they were clearly held to a time limit on that show.
Yeah, that's exactly what I like.
For better or worse.
Well, and I think that's a part of the reason why this show turned out how it did was because if you look back at that first show, all of the matches were really rushed. At the end of the day, even like the main match was like 11 minutes, like the title match, and the main event was a little bit shorter, but it was a short show. None of the matches really got time to breathe. This show did not have that problem, like the sequel for sure. And I think that's a big reason why. But they admitted that it sucked. Like that was a big part of this whole deal. It was like, hey, like we know we screwed up that first show. We're gonna make it right. Like this time, like we are gonna blow the doors off. Give us another chance. We promise we won't let you down. And well, the fact is, as I said, the hype machine was strong. You got people like Post Wrestling covering it. Like all the major outlets were like, okay, maybe we don't even talk about indies that much. Maybe we're not as big of fans as, Nello. And even Dylan, you've basically got me into being an indie fan at this point. I'm back. I used to be a really big one, but maybe not everybody's as big into it as us. But they still wanted to cover it. This show was a big deal. You cannot take that away from them. From the seating arrangement, I mean, they talked about it early on in the show. A big deal. Another like controversy in the show was the stuff with AEW. Ricky Starks was going to be on their shows, and they said no, like because Effie said some stuff Tony Khan didn't like. Tony Khan's really been big on punishing people. Just ask Chris Charlton what's been going on lately there, allegedly. So some dispute over that. But the fact remains, if you say bad things about Tony Khan and AEW, he doesn't like that at the end of the day. So I'm not going to say anything bad. I don't need anybody coming after me right now from AEW. But that was one of the first things they mentioned on this show during the promo was that they did better than AEW did, although the seating arrangements like played into that, and they, AEW kind of sold out their version 3 days in a row, and all of that. But that was a big goal too. They've really successfully positioned themselves as kind of an underdog, promotion right here, like taking on the big company. Like they're backed by a billionaire. They're on TV, and we, we're just doing our thing pretty much. So, yeah. Did you watch the pre-show at all?
I did.
Yeah, tell me about it, because all I did was see some of the clips on there, and I do think it's stuff worth talking about. If I had been watching this whole pre-show, I might have lost my mind beforehand. But how did it look? Tell us about the pre-show, man.
Okay, so things that I remember from the pre-show, I don't have notes. Classic. A very babyface Matt Cardona video package, which did absolutely
considering what happened.
Exactly. Dude, more like it was like a baby face, like he's fighting for the fucking Ring of Honor title at Hammerstein again. It was like a 6-man, I want to say, of some classic GCW mainstays involving one called Manders, who actually got the pin in the match, Marcus Mathers, Blake Christian, just a little collection of characters. And then you had the Do or Die Rumble. And that was a classic GCW style clusterfuck where it's almost less about the wrestling and more about the entrances and then like the move sequence pop that the wrestler's going to do right after entering, and like that was fun. Nothing was offensively bad. The 6-man was good. The Do or Die Rumble had the Juggalo Championship people come out. That was sick. You had PCO come out. Oh, PCO. Yeah. Dude. And this was we'll talk a lot about the things on this show and what damaged it. And a couple of the things are things that you can't necessarily plan for.
Yeah.
One of them being PCO and his post-match promo, where he wins the Do or Die Rumble. And it's one of those things where PCO was definitely a foundational player in like the renaissance of GCW Like his match with Walter at Spring Break 2 is fucking legendary. He was one of, if not, I think the first GCW Extreme champions. So I could see him doing a match with Tremont, which would actually bang. Sorry, I digress. PCO basically gets on the mic, says that he sold out TNA's biggest gate. He was their biggest shirt mover for a while. And then he says he's going to do something he's been waiting to do for a very long time. And he takes out the TNA Digital Media Championship, puts it on a chair, and starts hammering it with a sledgehammer. Mind you, he doesn't quite hit it. Each time he like hits the chair,
that was funny.
The belt bounces off. So not as much of a statement as you would have hoped for if you're PCO, I assume. But yeah, dude, like this was just MLJ's trying to like grab the mic, but he's playing it in a very like performative style. Like perhaps trying to not play into the fact that like this is real. So yeah, it was a very weird vibe to start off the show. Because after that, you pretty much went into the entrances for the DLC match. So yeah, it was just a really weird moment. Like you very much felt like you were listening to someone talk about stuff that they shouldn't be.
Yeah. I mean, I thought when I saw it, I thought, okay, like PCO's pissed. He's shooting at the company, whatever. Like it's TNA. Weird stuff happens with them. I don't see any reason why this would be some kind of like angle or anything.
And like, here's the thing I want to add too. This is also what makes GCW great, is the fact that people do shit like this. And like, cause GCW, like this is what's weird about Hammerstein, right? And this is kind of, I think the core of it for me. GCW is not a Hammerstein promotion.
Yeah.
ECW was. And ECW was extreme, but GCW is more fucking extreme. And I think that's sick. And their style does not fit within the constraints of a Hammerstein ballroom. And so it's like, if you go to a place that tells you can't sing the way that you sing, you're not going to put on as good of a concert, plain and simple. Like you already have those hand slaps put on you, right? So like, as much as this stuff was like the PCO thing, botches on the show, Matt Cardona's shitty guest opponent, like these are also the things that make GCW rough. And sometimes it's kind of the roughness, like when you play a Cyberpunk 2077 and you call your motorcycle and it glitches and kills you. It's kind of part of the attraction and what makes it so special. Or like the bugs that almost feel like features. So like, even though this PCO thing was weird, I was like, fuck yeah, dude, there we go. That's GCW. Let's kick it off. All right. And something like that felt a lot more GCW than like a very watered down main event, which we'll talk about.
Did they really book Hallow Wicked for this?
No.
Yeah, because that's what it says in Cage Match.
Was he in the Do or Die? Had to be.
It was in the Rumble.
Wow.
Like, according to Cage Match again. I don't know. I was like,
there was like 40 people in the Rumble.
Yeah.
To be fair.
I was like, I was just wondering, because like, man, I haven't heard that guy in forever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was one of my favorites, like, way back in the day.
Chikara guy, right?
Yeah. Yeah, like, and I thought he was, like, the best of like, the Chikara guys, pretty much, there. So I was like, whoa, he's still around? Like, how did GCW get hold of him?
See, like, that's another thing, right? Like, GCW, bringing in, like, the classic indie guys, just like we got on the main show, your Hollow Wicked, your Too Tough Tony, Tombstone Jesus, all the fucking weirdos, man. Like, that's what I want to see on a GCW show, where the weirdos and the sickos. I don't come to GCW Crowbar for, like, a nice arena show. Crowbar coming out with a fucking crowbar, dude. Exactly. Yeah.
What if they got David Flair on one of these to come out with them?
Pass.
I would love that if that happened. like that's my secret hot take is like WCW. Well, it's not a hot take to say WCW in 2000 was horrible, but they were the best part of it. Like that whole group, because not wrestling, just doing goofy, ridiculous, insane stuff to make the show at least have a little bit of fun in them. But yeah, I mean that whole PCO deal was great hype for the show. It got a lot of people talking. To be fair. But they said, and they too did. If whoever saw that GIF on Twitter, they too did, and they were treated to a 15-match show that they desperately needed to see. They wanted to see, and that is what they gave them. It first started off. The first thing that happened was we got to see Brett Lauderdale on here. He comes out, and I just love that he had this promo on his phone. Pretty much that he was reading from. Like, couldn't you at least just come on? Yeah.
So he got criticisms for that, and he responded on Twitter. And he basically was like, my apologies, I'm not a public speaker. I was writing this before I came out on my phone, so I didn't have time to memorize it. Like, and I don't really do that. And like, I get it, but also, why are you writing this 5 minutes before you're coming out? Like, what the fuck? Like, this is GCW, dude. What? This is your biggest show of the year. You've been hyping it for a year, and you write your fucking speech 5 minutes before you come out. Like, are you kidding me? Like, do it while you're booking flights for the talent or some shit, man. At least create an outline, give yourself some bullet points.
Yeah, I'm never a big fan of scripting promos, like in general, full out. But give yourself some things you want to mention and just kind of speak from the heart. And it's clear, like
it didn't feel like it was coming from the heart so much as it was coming from the notes app, and it also felt like he was kind of making up thoughts. And like, here's the thing: it was very classic wrestling in the way of like he referenced a lot of things and mentioned nothing by name. He was like, oh, there are all the people that backstabbed and betrayed us, that we don't need you anymore. And we're the underdogs, and all the other promotions that ran here in the past month are not as good. And it's like, we know what you're saying, but you're too afraid to actually fucking say it. And it's like, that's weird too, because it's like, he's doing this promo that's supposed to be meaningful, and he's forcing you to read between the lines. Like, it was just, I thought it was pretty childish. I thought what was very funny was Brett, and again, this is what is GCW, Brett coming out in Nike sweatpants and a fucking hoodie, and Jordans to come out in the ring and introduce the show, and then immediately after they bring out Dave Prazak, who's in a beautiful suit. And like, I'm not one to like disparage people for like what they wear, but I'm like, fuck, dude, at least dress up a little for the biggest day of your company's fucking history. Like, god damn. It's just like it remember like when Roman would be in those segments and you got like Rock and Versace, Cody in a suit, and then you got Roman in like the Under Armour get up. It's kind of the same energy.
And I think it's clear, like, obviously, like, being in this building, and just everything about the promotion, really, it's heavily inspired by ECW. And I think he wanted this to be like one of those legendary Paulie, big speeches, like.
Oh yeah, imagine Paul Heyman sitting there with his notes app on his phone, reading off his promo.
I guess the version of that in the 90s, he came out with a notepad that he read it off of. He scribbled it on there for 5 minutes, and he may have done that for some of his promos. He just didn't take it out to the ring with him. He might have scribbled some stuff down, and it was like, fuck it, I'll just say whatever when I go out there. But the fact remains, like he said, he's not a public speaker. I'm not gonna jump on him for that, but like, you could have prepared for this a little bit more, I think, overall than that. That's not really great excuse, I would say.
Yeah, I have sympathy for you if you struggle with public speaking and you tried your best. I don't have sympathy for you if you wrote something in 5 minutes before you came out and then you fucked it up. That's not a lack of public speaking or an issue of public speaking. It's an issue of preparation.
And he didn't have to do this at all, to be honest with you. Like I said, I think he wanted this to be like a rah-rah speech, but it didn't really land, unfortunately. But then we got through all that. Like you said, the announcements came out, and we get the DLC match here for both the Extreme title and the Ultraviolent title. This is a direct follow-up to our last show that we talked about with the Nick Gage Invitational, where Sawyer had to, she retired and gave up the title that she wants. They're putting it on the line here and merging it with the Extreme title. And so you had Maki Ito defending. You had Brandon Kirk, Cyclope, Dr. Redacted, Drew Parker, John Wayne Murdoch, Matthew Justice, Rita Yamashita, Matt Tremont. And here we had, a lot going on here. And Brandon Kirk as well. I just think that there was a lot going on here. I do have to say, at first I was like, because they kept saying DLC, I was like, what's the D mean in DLC on there? And I kept wondering, like, what could this mean? Of course, it means doors, ladders, and chairs. But I have to say, I thought this actually got the show off to a pretty good start, to be honest with you. And this match was ridiculous. Like, let's just start that right off the bat. They started off right away with John Wayne Murdoch was like trying to punk out Maki Ito. She cried.
Dude, that was so funny. I'm just gonna fucking say it. You don't belong here, Maki. Just such a dick.
That made her cry.
Which horrible thing to do.
It was such an easy heat spot, and then everybody else in the match jumped him for it. That was awesome. She ended up
also. I'll say too, like, really great. You don't really have a villain coming into this match, and as we'll see with the final spot, they really set up Murdoch as the big bad that you don't want to see win here.
Yeah, absolutely. Ito ended up doing the Terry Funk spot with a ladder. They came in. I will say this. This show may have done less than the first show at Hammerstein, but when you talk about the video packages, the production, the fans that were there, I mean, they drew a healthy crowd to this. They deserve some credit for this. Again, like, this show is not going to be remembered well. I'm not going to say that, but they do deserve some credit for pulling this off the best they could here, which looked really like it might not be that great earlier on. Kirk and Ito went at it. Kirk ended up looking for a Psycho Driver, but Ito turned it into a DDT. That was a pretty cool little spot there. Redacted was going crazy, throwing ladders at people like on there. Then Redacted and Yamashita, they put trash cans over themselves, and then both jumped onto everybody else, but actually they kind of hit each other more than anybody else, like crashed into each other with the trash cans. Then suddenly Yamashita and Cyclope were going for the belts. Cyclope ended up pulling her in for a kiss, and then I mean, what romance? Suplexed her off the top onto like 5 tables on the outside.
And these were tall ladders. Like, these were not fucking around ladders. And like, something that I appreciated in this match that I didn't really notice until like the very ending when Murdoch and Tremont hauled ass up these ladders. These dudes were sprinting up these ladders. This was not, hey, we're killing time, WWE style, going slow. Oh, I'm exhausted. Like, these dudes were sprinting up these fucking ladders. It was exciting. And yeah, once you reach this part, like, once Cyclope and Rena go off, they pretty much have death traps set up all around the ring, inside and all 4 corners.
Yeah, like, everybody went through it. You had Redacted was on, like, they had the ladder set up kind of like sideways to stand on. Justice ended up grabbing Redacted, hitting a DVD through the table. Parker did a Swanton bomb off the ladder at one point onto, I think, Murdoch was on the table.
It was onto Murdoch and Maki took
Maki.
like 90% of it.
Yeah.
Which was pretty sick. I was surprised she took that. I was like, damn. Because again, that was a tall ladder. And like, I really can't understate too how insane Justice taking Redacted off was. Because it's like where he jumped off of was he went from the turnbuckle and jumped to the outside over it, which is like, that's probably the worst thing you could jump over while holding someone on your shoulders and diving them. And like, they just ate it on the outside. That was one of my favorite spots from the night, along with another DVD spot, that was an air raid crash. But yeah, no, this was a great clusterfuck.
Yeah, it was. Like everybody put effort into it. They all took big bumps. I like the spot where Kirk ended up. They had like the ladder set sideways, and it was like on the top rope, and he ended up hitting the Psycho Driver through the ladder. The crowd went nuts at that. That's when you got the holy shit chance, and it looked like Kirk was gonna win. And by the way, we have to mention too. They were talking about how this was gonna be his retirement match.
Yeah.
His girl had stepped away, and he's got to step away now too, on there. And like he kind of got like a good reaction. Everyone was like loving this, and then suddenly Murdoch ended up like knocking him off like a total dickhead. Pushed him off through the other horizontal ladder. Then it came down to Tremont and Murdoch, and Tremont pulled out a fork to stab him with it. And then that led to Murdoch going down. Tremont grabbed the belts, and like you said, a great clusterfuck. Everybody hugged Kirk at the end, and the crowd gave him like a huge ovation on there. I mean, obviously he couldn't win because they kind of just did the retirement angle with Sawyer. So, but I thought he was very effective in his role. Everybody took great bumps. Like I said, it was a super exciting, fast paced, very entertaining. I mean, like by no means like a technically sound match, but a ton of fun. What do you think of? Well, I'll let you make your point first.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, backing up your point from earlier about like they're telling you how to sing at your own concert, and it's kind of taking something away from it. Do you think that, because a lot of criticism of this was that, like, man, there really wasn't any blood in this, because that was obviously due to the New York Commission, which would play an even bigger role in the next match, we'll talk about. But what did you think of that? Do you think that like really negatively hyped it?
No. Like, GCW has, as much of a deathmatch company as they are, they run a shitload of hardcore too, right? And they run hardcore more often than they run DLC type stuff more often than they run death matches now. You got Justice taking out Redacted. You got some really insane table spots. Like, I think that this had the level of violence and fuckery that you wanted to see as a GCW fan. I think that Tremont winning the belt in a vacant division, he's going to be the best thing that can happen for it. He's a deathmatch American legend. He's going to have really great matches, and when he puts someone over, it's going to mean something. Like, awesome way to reset the division, basically. I didn't think that it was missing blood. The fork thing kind of threw me off, honestly, just because it's when they do things where you expect there to be blood, right? And then there's none. That's when it kind of sticks out to me. No, like this did it for me. This hit the right spots. Again, really happy that Tremont won. My only complaint is that when he pulled out the fork, commentary didn't yell, "It's the Black Abdullah the Butcher." Still one of my favorite things ever.
That would have made it a lot better, to be honest.
Prazak making that call?
Yes. Or Veda, even on there.
Hey, I will say, Jordan Castle, someone that you and I at the beginning of last year knocked for their commentary, because we were talking about like very performative commentary, right, on the indies. And like he was the third in the booth on this, and I thought he sounded a hell of a lot better than he did a year ago. So I wanted to shout that out.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, definitely no negatives on the commentary on this show. Outside of one I'll get to. which is really a like a production like quibble that I'll have. But yeah, this match was really good. I thought it was like the highlight of the show, honestly.
This was the best way you could start it off. Also, like, this, what I appreciated is that you could tell how much thought they put into this. They have all the entrances come out before the show starts, right? You end it with Maki's high energy. What entrance kicks off the show? Tremont. They have the Journey song. They have the sing along from the crowd. One
separate
day,
ways.
love will find you. I fucked that lyric up, but whatever. Yeah. And then like you have Tremont win. You have a badass match with a ton of spots. Like they set the show up so well, and they really fired it off hot here, hitting on all cylinders, which is so unfortunate for what we're about to talk about.
So we move on to the number one contender match for the main event against Mance Warner. Effie versus Alley Catch. And, they had this long, drawn-out storyline where, Alley turned on Effie, and now it led to this, and the winner was going to be in the main event. But the truth is, all of this is going to be forgotten about because of the terrible leg injury that Alley Catch had. It's some really gruesome stuff. I would advise you not to watch it. I know that GIF was kind of floating around. It just sucks. Like, there's no positive spin on it. I thought this really, really put, had a shadow over the whole show after this because, her guttural scream that she had was, sickening. And, not in a sick way, cool. It was, it literally made me want to turn off the show. It was so horrible. And all we know is that Steph DeLander set up a GoFundMe for her. And hopefully her leg can recover and she can get back in the ring. Hopefully everybody can pitch in and take care of her, as the wrestling community tends to do with these sorts of things. And I hope for the best for her and everybody involved. I know it was just a devastating thing for everybody, and I think it weighed in. Even on Effie, I think that probably hurt his performance in the main event, and nobody can blame him for that. But just a horrible thing that happened.
Yeah, the immediate thing it made me think of was we just saw this happen with Doki and Desperado in Wrestle Kingdom. And it sucks, you see the glimpse of what could be a really fun match, and then it just ends suddenly in tragedy. How do you turn a crowd around after this, right? And I think you can kind of look at the ways that GCW responded and New Japan responded in those moments, the way that they sent out Manser, they ran the angle with Effie, they set up the main event, right? They have Desperado do the promo, he puts over Doki, he says, I want to fight you again, right? So they both do their thing, save ass right there. Unfortunately, New Japan was able to move on with their show after that and kind of, help people forget. Game Changer Wrestling got fucked here. And this is what killed the show. And it's not Alley Catch's injury. It's what followed here. This is what killed the show. Sorry, I keep jumping ahead, but please go into it. And it's hard because it wasn't their fault necessarily.
So Lauderdale comes out and he's screaming, "Hey, no, this is real, injury." He went on Twitter and right away was "Hey, this isn't a storyline. This is real." And basically, due to this show being in New York, the commission has a rule in place that you can't wrestle on the show without an ambulance being in attendance. And the ambulance took Alley Catch to the hospital afterwards. So they had to wait, and things went to a dead stop on the show.
They send out. So I think
Carrie Moore.
I think to me, where they fucked up was by sending out the wrestlers for the next match right away.
I agree.
because you put these guys in a position where they have to fill time, but they have no idea how much time they have to fill. They had absolutely nothing prepared, and it was not quality. It was not good. They kept running the same things. Homicide kept trying to fight them, which was really funny and very GCW on brand. Homicide was like, Grim Reaper threatened violence against the New York commissioner. He said he'd slap him in the face or some shit. It was really bad. I think that they should have just paused things. Again, sending everyone out. That's what made it weird, is because you had the cameras still rolling, 6 guys in the ring, Amazing Red doing absolutely nothing, just sitting there in the corner. Good for him. Not that he needed to do anything. That wasn't a criticism. But like, this sucked. It really sucked as a way to fill time. It wasn't cheering people up. It just kind of felt like it was making the situation worse, because the heels are trying to get heat the entire time. And it's like, this isn't the time you want to get heat or like build fucking a bad situation, right? Like, people are upset, they're concerned, and they're pretty unsettled. I don't know. What did you think?
And on top of it, it just turned into boredom. I think by the end.
Yes.
Like, we're restless. I will say, I think Kerry Morton did a pretty good job on the mic. He showed some good confidence, some good charisma. Him ripping on Grim Reaper and saying marijuana has no business in this ring. On there, I thought of you when he said that, to be honest. The easy heat spot in GCW. But I thought he did a pretty good job and set up the match to come. But it was just too damn long. Like, that's the problem.
I totally agree with you that the first Kerry segment was good. And yeah, I actually thought, because I thought it was part of the show. I was like, okay, Kerry's going to get his shit in, because at that point, I didn't realize that the show had been held up.
Right.
So once Kerry does this segment for the third time at the top of the entrance ramp, that's when I'm like, fuck, man. But I totally agree that, he did have some good stuff at the beginning there.
And, I thought the Legends, they tried their best at the end of the day. By the time this match started, there was no heat for this match. It was like a totally silent crowd going in there.
It was a good at least 20 minutes, I want to say. And like, I could be completely wrong, but
no, it was
felt
long.
Like it was a good 20, 30 minutes in between these
30.
two matches. Yeah. From the moment that Alley Catch got injured to the bell actually ringing, and again, here's the thing. I saw people online being like, oh, this is GCW's fault because they wanted to sell more tickets, so they put more seats on the floor and had to scoot the guardrails in, right? And all sorts of shit like that. Yeah. And it's like, but then you look at the New Japan thing, and it's like, that wasn't the situation here. Like, freak accidents happen, unfortunately. There was a shitload of other dives on this show as well, and like, other people did not get injured. This was a tragedy, and it sucked. And it was like, I think the way that they responded to it just hurt the show even more. Like, if you had, like, when they had Mance come out and take out Effie, great. That was a great audible to pull right there. Right. You get Effie away, like, you take all the cameras away and all the attention away from Alley Catch so she can be attended to ringside. You take the action to the complete other side of where the ring is, where the announcement or the ring table is, the ring bell table. You start to build up the main event that needs to happen now. And I think if you just would have paused the show again after that and just let things right out, and then, hey, the show's back on, and then you have Homicide's music hit, right? Fuck. That's going to bring people back in and have them pumped up. But it's like, no, you just had to sit there and watch them squirm and squirm.
Yeah, maybe play a couple of those video packages a little bit early, I think.
And they wound up going to video packages too during like the Kerry Morton stuff, because they wound up eventually cutting away, I think, once Homicide like started trying to fight them.
But yeah, it was just entirely too long to really wreck the show. To be honest, I don't think they ever really recovered from it. To be honest with you, unfortunately. Um, but the match finally started.
And like, I mean, Dylan, like, how do you judge something like that, right? Because like
Yeah,
a lot of people rate the Doki and like a Desperado match
I
still
wouldn't do
on
that.
Cage Match,
Yeah,
which
I
is
would.
like, it's weird to me. And it's like, but like, is a thing where it's like, how do you judge the overall show when something like this happens? Like, it's honestly hard because, again, like, I don't want to fault it, but maybe there was another way to not lose more steam, right?
You can't tell me this was the show Brett and everybody intended to have. At the end of the day, like
No,
that didn't
it's
happen. We didn't get to see that.
no, the vision that they intended was never actualized. And then something that someone else had pointed out online was that the only match that did not have a video package was the main event, which makes you think that it either had to have been alley catch going over or a three-way going into the main event.
The way they set it up, I mean, I don't know if this is true or not. I don't know if Brett revealed this or not or whatever. My vibe of it going into that match with Effie and Alley Catch was that this show, whether it was Alley getting the title or like you said, maybe a three-way of some sort, this show was going to end with them settling their differences and coming back together. Like that was going to be the feel-good moment at the end of the show.
Ali wins the title and Effie puts her over.
Yeah, exactly. Or I
Oh
hope so.
my God,
Yeah.
heartbreaking.
Yeah, I mean that's how I judge it. I mean I don't know. I may be completely wrong, but that was my personal vibe going into it. And I mean, you said it. This show it has such a low rating on Cage Match, but I mean, how can you? You can't blame anybody for this overall. I mean, we saw the return of the fork with Carey. Ricky Morton made his run in, hit the Canadian Destroyer on his own son. We had got all the hits. Pretty much everybody did his deal. Homicide hit the Cop Killer. To win the match. I mean, it's just not fair. Like you can't judge it either way, in my opinion. Afterwards, Emil J came up to Amazing Red and said he will be the next inductee into the Indie Hall of Fame for this year. He's kind of like the headlining act. The crowd reacted to that. At least they gave him some nice, a nice little ovation. He should have been a first ballot Indie Hall of Famer, to be honest with you. Like he should have been like one of the headliners.
He's someone who I need to go back and watch their work because I've only really seen his matches against like the newer guys who are like they're like doing like their I've always wanted to face amazing red match, and I feel like they're always 30 minutes and way too long. Like the Mustafa Ali, Will Ospreay.
Yeah.
Well, I need to go back and watch his earlier work, man, because this guy is so praised, and I feel like I've just never really gotten a click with it. So, but something to be excited for to go back and look. Any matches that you would recommend, or?
Oh God, Red, like I said, no joke. He was an absolute innovator, like super important to modern wrestling. Like no lie. My fear is that he won't look as great 23 years later that he was back then. But he's a guy that I have just a ton of respect for. I think that he's a guy that, he was on like the start of Ring of Honor, start of TNA. He was on the very first show. He had a tag team with multiple people in TNA that he was doing. But him and AJ in TNA had a great rivalry. He had some matches like that you could look at. Him and Paul London in Ring of Honor was an amazing match as well. Like this is like 2002 like level here we're talking about. He had a match versus like I said, Low Key in TNA, which was great. Just all of those guys that whole era was so special to me. You know, I never got to meet him and never got to wrestle him. I always dreamed of wrestling him because I thought it would be like a great, like he was just such a spectacular talent. It's funny because they actually put up his, like, he had one WWE match and they put that up on WWE Vault on there. I think it was him and Punk actually. Like was on. So I don't even think Punk was on the roster. I don't even know how that happened. But he never got that big contract. But he was amazing for his time. And like I said, I fear going back to watch those matches that they won't hold up because the stuff he did then blew everybody's minds back then. But now it's like it's not that special. You know, ultimately, like he paved the way that we're already way down the road on. But yeah, check out those matches with AJ and Low Key. And London too. All 2002. I think maybe 2003 he had some matches too. 2004 he had a major injury and was gone for a few years. Then they brought him back. Like TNA brought him back in like 08, I think 08 or 09. And he was great. You know, and he had that good little run. Hogan came in and we know how that went. Like anybody who was good at TNA died when Hogan came in. But he had a good little run in 08 and 09, nothing like super crazy, but he was great then, and super, super special in 2002. He really, really paved the way for all of the modern indie talents in that style of wrestling, like the next generation high flyer guy.
Hell yeah.
Love him to death. Like totally deserving, like one of the most important people of the indie scene, I would say, of that era. I think Brian would have to be up there too. Brian Danielson would have to be one of the top indie guys. Low Key, I think, has to be up there. I mean, the thing is, a lot of these things really centered around Ring of Honor at the time. You did have the CZW feud, which had Hero involved in that, and that kind of led to the next generation coming in as well. Joe had his amazing title run. You know, Homicide had a great story with it. You know, you had all kinds of great indie legends of that time, but Red was really the innovator of them all, I would say. Like, in purely in ring, he didn't have the accolades of those guys, but in terms of innovating, he did. I could talk about this for a million years, to be honest.
No, thank you. It's awesome to hear.
And that's why I brought up Halloween earlier. He's another one of those guys from like before Chikara jumped the shark era there. And I really enjoyed his work too. So I love seeing these kind of like, I mean, again, like, I mean, my first match was 2005, right? So I have a special affinity for that 2000s era of indie wrestling in particular. And I do admit that I'm a little biased on that end, but I really do think anybody who knows wrestling would agree with that he is a legend for real. But we move on from all that. And we go for the GCW tag titles. We've got the Garbage Daddies, Alec Price and Cole Radrick, taking on Kevin Koo and Dominic Garrini. And it was obvious that the crowd really wanted the Daddies to win here. Overall, like they wanted a title change, and they got it at the end of the day. They did a lot of stuff here. The crowd was into it. They're trying to get the crowd into it early on. They ended up doing some like typical tag team work on Radrick, going in there and built to a hot tag to Price. They came in. The crowd started to chant, actually, like, next new champs. But they came in. This is when they ended up doing the Cole Radrick hitting the air ring crash onto everybody to break up the sleeper hold. Looks sick, to be honest. They ended up doing the old Red Dragon finisher, Violence Forever did. But Price came flying in with a dive to break that up. They came in. They hit the brainbuster. Kevin Koo hit the brainbuster on Price on the top rope. They went outside. Alec Price hit a big double stop. Shades of Low Key, one of those legends, indie legends I mentioned, to get the win. The crowd threw all the streamers in the ring, and the crowd did react positive to that overall. So This was the perfect time to take another break afterwards to set up the cage. But before we get into that, what do you think of the tag title match?
This was good. This was a good match. Violence is Forever being like the most offenses in the history of the GCW tag titles. And then Cole Radrick has had this brass ring for forever, which I actually thought he was cashing in for this match, but then he brought it out in the main event. So
yeah, that happened. Yeah, that was a tease in the main event.
Yeah, whatever. But this, like, when we started this show, we talked about what did people get criticized for last time on the show, and it was not having GCW homegrown talent win. And you put over Radrick and Price, like those are two of your future stars. It feels like when they had Nick Wayne and Jordan Oliver win the tag titles from Motor City Machine Guns. Like, great passing of the torch, and I hope they have a good run with the belts.
Yeah, it was good. I liked the match. My one criticism is when they hit the double team pile driver and Radrick kick out, we got the "Why am I so violent" face from Kevin Koo there.
Oh.
I thought it was a little over.
You say, "Why am I so violent"?
Yeah. It was a little over dramatic. Like Ruby Soho even would have thought this was a little much. That's all I'm saying. So then they take another break to set up the cage. They play the video package.
Which at this point, dude, I'm cutting matches.
Yeah.
I'm sending the most biggest apologies I ever can to these people, and I'm like, I will make it up to you, but we cannot run a show that's 6 hours and 3 minutes long. It's simply insane. We're not Big Egg Wrestling Universe,
They're definitely not that. I can promise you that. But they decided, no, we need to do this cage match. This storyline is totally stupid, to be honest.
And just like insane to stop your show completely again when you finally get a little bit of momentum back with this title win. You're going to completely bring it back to a halt. Just nuts.
I think in hindsight, this is definitely one they should have cut out and saved for the next show. Even make it the main event if you have to. But you cannot stop the show again after what happened earlier. That was a huge mistake. So to recap the storyline, as the best I can understand it. So they've murdered people, both of these men, and Holiday basically snitched on Charles Mason to the police and said, "Hey, he killed somebody." And Charles Mason's like, "What the? Like, you killed somebody?" And the police are like, "Nah, you killed somebody." And so then he escaped from prison in a scene completely ripped off from Silence of the Lambs, with Charles Mason. I thought he was supposed to be American Psycho, not Silence of the Lambs.
Who knows what the fuck he's supposed to be? He's just annoying to me. So
now he's a babyface on top of it. As we go on here, so Richard Holiday, proof that snitches are not welcome in GCW, is the heel against Bad Booze. He comes out in this like white like
dude gear with like the hat. It was so funny.
And then Mason comes in with a police jumpsuit or a jail jumpsuit, prison jumpsuit, but he had like a shirt on underneath it.
Yeah, he's still wearing his business casual attire underneath the jumpsuit, which just infuriated me.
This was
like
so
that
stupid.
really like upset me.
But I feel like I'll say this. If you are to judge all of this by any logic, this is a complete failure. Like, this was so fucking stupid. Like, everything about all of this was just stupid. Like, there's no way, like, even a child would laugh at this, I feel like, with how over the top it is. But I think they deserve some credit for, like, completely going over the top with it. Like, they were like, all right, we're turning this dial up to 100. We're not gonna follow any rules of reality. There's no way that this could ever happen. Like this story could ever be realistic at all. So we're gonna make it as goofy as possible and not even try to take it serious. And I think the fans were with them on that. But another thing that might have sucked this match. What was so again? We already complained about it. They wasted time stopping the show and setting up the cage. To what end in the match? Because honestly, Pero, he just kind of walked into he just walked in. Like he just literally opened the door and walked in the cage. This wasn't like, if we've seen spots, how many times have we seen somebody, a powerhouse come out and rip the chain in half or jerk the door off? No, he just opened the door and walked in. Like what was the point of the cage? It didn't stop anybody. And then on top of it, we're going on and on with all of this, and Slade just climbs over the top of the cage. This cage did not stop anybody. What was the point of this?
Just so the cage really only came into play, and again, if I forgot a bigger spot, please let me know. But all I remember is Holiday tossing Mason against the cage sometimes during the match. Other than that, this, I think that, okay, you want to keep the match on the show, right? At least cut the fucking cage.
Yeah, that would have been better, I think. And it didn't serve any purpose, ultimately, like I said, at the end of the day. They end up building this dramatic, Roman Reigns style of match spot where, he was going to knock him out with a chain, but Mason came back with a chair, and then he was about to, put his ass down, but then Holiday was like, wait, I have a confession. And he was like, you're damn right I snitched on you on there. I hate you. Or he's like, I'm not sorry. I hate you. Like Shawn Michaels-esque here. He would be proud here. Holiday went for the pin after he popped up with a super kick, but it only got a 1 count. And Mason ended up locking in the rear naked choke. Holiday went for the chain again, but Mason grabbed the chain himself and then choked his ass out with that. And he won. I don't think the work was bad. It's just the match was so stupid that it was hard for me to really get into this.
It was. I am admittedly not a Charles Mason person, nor have I ever really been into this storyline, and it's been months. It's been a very long time. It wasn't for me ultimately. But I totally agree. It's just so.
And it's a heel versus heel match on top of it.
Yeah, depending on where your morality spectrum is.
Well, I mean, they kind of made. They kind of made Mason the babyface for it, but.
Yeah. I don't know. It felt like. This felt like, okay, the tag match was great. It hit a good spot, right? This felt like it was the first match on the show because the homicide match and all that stuff, it really wasn't even a match to me at that point. It was just like a segment they had to get through. This was the first match on the show that I felt like was really suffering from everything that had happened so far, from timing issues to the pacing to the stop-start. This is when it just really started to fall apart for me. And I started to feel the length too, and we're 4 matches in on the 15 match card.
That kind of tells you where this show's going. So up next we had Io del Vikingo versus Cindy Akeem. And this was really where I was like, man, I don't know about this show right now. I mean, they did a lot of stuff, don't get me wrong, but it's obvious that Vikingo is not himself here. And he's working injured. Everybody knew it. They did some of their Cirque du Soleil stuff that Akeem is about and all of that stuff. And it was an exhibition, but it just wasn't what you want to see out of a Vikingo match at the end of the day. And I just think Akeem, he's a really, like, athletically, he's great. As a full wrestler, he's really one note, in my opinion.
He's a moves guy.
He's and like the, but
and he's
the
got
most,
some really fucking good moves.
He does.
But
like he does.
It did not hit. I completely agree though. It didn't hit that level you expect from a Vikingo match. Like this and the Mason match before it, both could be main events on a regular GCW show. And I think that they put too many of those matches on here to where they just simply didn't feel special. And they were all like within 10 to 12 minutes. Like every single match in this middle chunk was all pretty much the same time length. And yeah, like this was built up really big. Like Sidney Akeem going in undefeated, right, into Hammerstein, all this stuff. And like he got the pin over Vikingo, which should be fucking massive. And it kind of just felt like a blip in the show by the end of it. Like you know, this isn't something you're gonna really remember.
Yeah. They even mentioned on commentary that Vikingo was like not giving it all because he didn't. It's not that he wasn't giving it his all. It's just he wasn't as ambitious as usual because he didn't want to re-injure his knee. Like they literally said that on commentary. I do think the commentary was good overall. You know, I agree with what you said earlier about Castle. Prazek's always a pro. Veda. The only thing on the after the stoppage and everything, as soon as they come back, she was in the middle of eating a hot dog on there. Like you could hear her, you could hear her chewing for the first part on there. I don't blame her at all. Obviously, it was just a very. Funny.
I'm a nervous eater.
I don't know who can blame you. But yeah, like very bad timing on the cut. Yeah, like I said, she was still chewing like for the first like minute or so after that thing coming out. But at least she was polite enough to finish on that end. You know, you don't want to talk with your mouth full. That's kind of like really rude, you know. I don't see it with Akeem. Like I don't know what is so great about him.
What's the end goal for him to where he's still undefeated? He's not winning the world title. What is your plan with him?
He's like, to me, a good, basically where he was on the show, like a good mid-card stunt act. You know, like you could do crazy flippy match, hype up the crowd. This match it didn't work because it wasn't what we wanted out of Vikingo. But there's a place for him on your roster. I just don't know if I'd be giving him this big push or making him that's just like, you know, it feels like they're trying to make him like a main guy.
Oh, he's absolutely been one of their main guys. Like for a while, they were giving him like the highlight matches. Leo Rush, fucking. I mean, look at everyone that people faced on this card outside of Tanaka. Probably Vikingo's the biggest name, I would say.
Especially,
and it's like he got this spot, you know. And yeah, I don't know. I think that you like what do you think about putting him in a tag team with someone and having him be like a hot tag guy?
I think that would be a really smart usage of him as well. Like, if you're not going to have him be like opening act scramble guy or mid card like wake the crowd up guy, like post intermission first match type of, you know, flippy guy, a tag run would be great for him. I put him in there with somebody who he could, you know, maybe work on some cool double team moves. I think he's a very creative guy, obviously, in the ring.
Dude,
he does
imagine
stuff.
Him with Omos.
the greatest tag team if he ever goes to Noah.
He could flip off his shoulders and stuff. Like, I'm dead serious. I think that would be sick.
If he could get to Noah, like if Teriyaki could give him that number, that would be fucking awesome. Like, Omos fucking rules in Noah, for the record, if nobody's seen any of that. He is awesome.
Oh, they cracked the code for sure.
Yeah, this is a heavy Omos support podcast.
We're almost sapiens.
Almost sapiens, heavily in effect right now. We have found our genes. We know what we are, and Omos is our leader. So then we get another ECW nostalgia match. You've got Tajiri, Super Crazy, Little Guido. They're taking on Gringo Loco, Arez, and Jack Cartwheel. Another like all action type of match, pretty much. Super Crazy did the moonsault off the balcony. That got everybody riled up.
That pissed me off so much.
Oh.
We've watched this guy in Noah for 4 years never do a single cool thing, and he comes to GCW for one night and he's doing a balcony moonsault. Fuck off, man. Come on.
It was that Hammerstein magic he's got going on here.
I was just like, are you kidding me? You do this stuff still?
You are right. He sucked at Noah. But he came in. He was like, by God, this was ECW, and I have to turn it back up again. Tajiri hit his handspring elbow at one point.
Tajiri got a huge pop. People love Tajiri.
Yeah, and Crazy, too. Like, they were into this ECW nostalgia here. Arez and Crazy went back and forth with some dual lucha submissions, which they both let go of and then started brawling with each other afterwards. Gringo Loco did a dive to the floor. Jack Cartwheel hit his Sasuke special at one point. Tajiri hit the mist, but it was into the ref because Arez ducked. And then Arez hit his own mist into Tajiri. And then Gringo Loco ended up hitting the split leg moonsault to pin Little Guido. Again, if you're into ECW, I bet you probably love this. I'm historically not a big ECW fan, but I still thought those were pretty fun.
Yeah, it was fun. They had to get in their ECW match. And again, I know that GCW loves ECW, but I also wish that they would just recognize they are so much more fucking extreme than these guys, and they really don't need them. As cool as it was. I don't know. I don't think GCW needs to do the ECW stuff anymore. I think that stuff just hurts them.
I don't think anybody needs to do ECW stuff anymore.
No, and again, too, I'm also not an ECW guy or a WCW guy or a WWF guy, really. 90s American wrestling, I have absolutely no affinity for. And so when people are in the group chat, posting stuff, I'm just why aren't you watching Big Japan? Let's go. Strong Division. Are
you telling me you didn't like Russo era WCW?
Oh, I love that. Wait, which era were we talking about? Because no, I'm kidding. No, I didn't watch back then. I didn't.
Well, you were smarter than everyone else that were watching WCW at the time. I always say, listen, there's a reason I watched WCW until the end. It's not because it was good. I promise you it's not because it was good. But listen, I'm from the South. I didn't choose WCW. It chose me at the end of the day. What they chose to give us next was Tom Pestock here. Josh Barnett had his Bloodsport match.
Hey guys, let's pause the show to fucking take the ropes off the ring.
Yes, another pause here.
Oh. And you didn't have to take the ropes off to do this fucking match.
It really was an unnecessary stoppage. Now that I didn't even think about that, but now that you say it, that was totally unnecessary.
It's not like this was the fucking Jody Threat match where they're doing dives on each other out of the ring or something, They're not rolling out or anything. UWF and fucking none of these promotions had to take the ropes off, but Barnett's by God, I can't wrestle with these fuckers on.
It's the sanctity of Bloodsport.
The sanctity of Bloodsport. Stugats.
What do you think about Baron Corbin? Shoot style Baron.
Sick. Dude, he hit harder than 99% of people I've seen on Bloodsport.
Yeah, I know. He
He
actually kind
had
of ruled.
really good like his striking was super sound. I was like, this is the exact type of like hard hitting striking we need. I thought the match just ended super sudden, and you had the crowd fully turn on.
They hated this. Yeah.
And Corbin got over as fuck, which
Yeah, they loved.
was not expecting, but dude looked great. I would love to see him back. Like, I think that Corbin is maybe the heel that you could have take the belt off Effie should he actually do a GCW run. I would love to see something like that. Corbin, by all accounts, seems like a cool dude, man. And I thought he looked good. I thought Barnett was kind of what brought the match down.
The problem is that the crowd loved him too much for him to be here. Like, they were all on board big fucking time.
Yeah. And Barnett is always going to wrestle like the Barnett style match, but I feel like people are definitely getting sick of it, and I am as well, because it's becoming a lot of uninteresting grappling that may feel technically advanced to him, but visually is, and like in terms of creating something entertaining, is not translating.
There's very few people that I respect more on the indies than Josh. Like, I love his mind for the business and all of that stuff. But I think this match may be a little bit of a wake-up call, to be honest. I mean, the crowd clearly took Tom Pestock's side over yours. Like, Baron Corbin came in big. And we saw Tom. He was on that Twitter game, bigging up Tony Khan, putting down Ray Phoenix, saying no, he needs to stop complaining on Twitter. He's going for that AEW job, and I praise him for being, a game player. But I also praise him because he really was good in this match, like, no lie. He did a great job. The crowd loved it, and I was into this too. I thought it was a really good, well-done match. I just think that the wrong guy won, and I hate saying that because I love Josh, but still.
Barnett rules, man. It's just, you got to read the room, and I don't think people like every single fucking Bloodsport show, except for when he fought Thatcher, of all people. He's won every single fucking match.
Yeah. But there's just nowhere you could go with him at this point, like beyond where he's at. So hopefully something changes. As I said, I hope it's a wake-up call at the end of the day. We move on to Megan Bayne versus Atticus Cogar, who came out with Megan Bayne's face mask carved, like a mask in the shape of her face that he wore with like blood coming out the end of it. Like fake blood, not real blood. But this was sick, to be honest.
Imagine the commission shuts down because of that. Shuts the fucking show down.
They thought it was a shoot. Like,
it's not real blood.
Yeah, like, no, he didn't actually cut her face off. It was just a mask. So they come out. She was hitting some big suplexes going on. He ended up scoring a DDT and tried to like stop her from suplexing him, which he failed at. She continued to suplex him. She ended up hitting a big like belly to belly suplex onto a chair that was open, setting. Cogar ended up following up with a big double stomp from the top rope. They came in and he grabbed her and he ended up hitting the air raid crash onto the ring apron.
Onto the ring apron is putting it loosely, Dylan. Wow. They brushed that ring apron. Dude, they went to the floor.
I mean, it was sick, though.
It was awesome. It was fucking awesome.
And then suddenly, like, that was nuts. He gets near fall from that, and suddenly she ends up going for the skewers here. And Otis Cogar ran in to stop that. And then Atticus was looking for the skewers on his own. And suddenly, then a mystery person comes in, sprays something in Otis Cogar's eyes, hits a taser on Atticus, and it's Sawyer Wreck. Like a total follow up to the Nick Gage Invitational here. She's back, hits the taser on Atticus, sets up Megan winning with the tombstone. I mean, it was nice that they paid off that deal. My only problem with this match is that you knew Bane was going to win because she just debuted on AEW.
Yeah. No, predictable finish, but I liked how they got there. My hot take is that I thought this was the best match on the show.
That's the power of the Megasis right now, who is awesome.
Dude, I thought Atticus played his role so well. Like, he's getting a lot of shit online, but I'm like, dude, I thought he played the role well. People are like, he's so unsafe. Why would you risk this spot and all this shit? And I'm like, there's nothing worse than when people like get protective of wrestlers in like the movies.
I hate it. I hate the safety.
Oh my God.
Type of the worst. Do not talk to me. Like, shut up. If you're thinking that. I hate that stuff. Totally agree on your part. He did a good job here. I don't know what they were so mad about. Everybody was fine in the end. Like what the? Shut up.
Brutal spots. Nice to see Sawyer. That was a big pop. That like really got the crowd up, which was cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
You had Megan conquer Atticus, and I think that this was a great first program back for Atticus as well, and I'm excited to see where he goes next.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought he did a great job, honestly, in this match. I wouldn't say it was my favorite match. I like the opener the best. I would give them the same rating. Yeah.
Like probably 3.5, 3.75, like being gracious. But I think that like this is the one I'll remember more.
Yeah, with the feel good ending with Sawyer coming out was good. This totally worked. Overall.
And this was the first match to bring me back probably since, like, even though the tag team match was good, I was not really like fully present and like hyped up, jumping up and down on my couch. This was like the first match that really got me back into the show.
I thought the show was pretty fun. Outside of the Cage and the Akeem Vikingo match. And obviously, like, I don't even count the Kerry Morton and all that match. But everything else was pretty fun after the terrible injury. The Cage was and all that I wasn't that into. But this was good. I thought this was better than the tag match too. But I thought this was actively good, and everything else was just like, hey, this is pretty good. So we move on to Masato Tanaka, another ECW match here. And who better to face him than Joey Janela? He starts off trying to get the doors right away, but Tanaka hits his table spot, like same stuff he always does in all of his matches, pretty much here. He does the tornado DDT onto the chair. Janela ended up hitting a superplex onto a bunch of chairs that were set up for that. They ended up going on with the elbows and forearm strikes back and forth. Tanaka busts him open with his he doesn't bust him open, but he busts him over the head with a chair shot. They go onto a table, which they fell off of. Looked really sloppy, to be honest. Janela ended up hitting the Death Valley driver through a door that was set up in the corner. Again, another spot he's known for. They both swung chairs at the same time. But in the end, Janela just turned it into a package pile driver for the win here.
Huge win.
Yeah, over a legend.
Yeah, and again, totally learning from the mistakes of the last show, and then somehow still pumping out a potentially worse show, which is insane to me. Like, they righted a lot of wrongs, and I give them that, but still somehow this show is just, I don't know. I think this was a good match. Like, overall, this was just a fun match. Like, nothing offensively bad. Totally agree with you. There's some things that didn't look great, but like, it's a Joey Janela plunder match. There's going to be a lot of crazy shit. Some looks good, some doesn't, but it's mostly fun regardless. Tanaka always looks good. I mean, he's one of the best 50 plus dudes, plain and simple. Um, God, what was I gonna say? This match coming on before the main event, I think really killed the main event because this was like this and the main event almost felt like the same match in terms of just we're just gonna put each other through a fuckload of tables and doors.
Yeah.
And then you already got that in the very first match as well. And right there you can kind of see, okay, we want to be hardcore, but we can only use 3 things.
Yeah.
Right. And right there, GCW is pretty boxed in. And I think that no pun intended, it just didn't hit as hard. It was really diminishing returns.
Yeah. And I didn't think it was that great, to be honest. I don't know if it was Janela, Tanaka, or both. I just thought this was like a really lame indie, like a super indie type of match to me.
Ooh.
Yeah. So Janela, he gets on the mic afterwards, and he's all like, I love the fans, GCW where it's at. He was like, we had fun, we had tragedy, you saw action, but when you see Tanaka wrestle, you get satisfaction. And then he's going on about WrestleMania weekend. And he's like, I'll be there. I'll be there and I'll face anybody. And suddenly, the lights go out. They play a video package saying, hey, it's about Sabu. And then the lights came on. He was in the ring. And then Janela was all like, well, if you want to do this, let's make it one more match for you. You want to have your retirement match? Let's do it. And then Sabu didn't say anything. But
Dude, Sabu was still hitting his pose. He didn't say a goddamn thing. And Janela was like, Janela's trying to set up with a promo with basically a statue. Like, this was hilarious.
Well, if you do the Sabu pose, that means you're ready to retire. Obviously. Because there's no indication.
Did you see the Sabu fan ringside that was dressed like Sabu? That was like literally, you could see they were like fucking dying trying to get his attention.
Oh. But he tried to live his best life though. He tried to live his dream.
True. Maybe you got to meet him. But yeah, Dylan, how excited are you for the Sabu retirement match?
Oh, I mean, as I said before, I'm really not an ECW fan at all. That means I'm not a Sabu fan. But I recognize that he's very popular among a certain subsection of fans. To me, he doesn't do a lot for me. It never has, and I don't think that much of him. I think not that much of Janela either, so I don't know what to think about this match. It'll be big for ECW fans. And that's about as nice as I can say about it. What about you? Are you into this?
I mean, this sounds like it's going to be fucking terrible. When was the last time you saw Sabu wrestle?
That's true. It's been a long time.
I don't know. Like, it's like, I'm like, hell yeah, Sabu's retirement match. I got a Sabu jersey. I fuck with Sabu. Like, he's one of the ECW guys I like. But there's no part of me that thinks that this is going to be remotely good. But also, I think that's kind of the allure, is that it's going to be a car crash.
That's kind of his deal anyway, right? That he's supposed to have these crazy train wreck matches. So, I mean, there's no reason. Well, I'm sure everybody will run in, Sandman and all these people. Like, this could be in a lot of ways like the retirement of ECW nostalgia as a whole. Have all the ECW guys run in and do crazy stuff. I think that's about it. Because I don't expect this to be like a match. But I mean, we'll see, I guess. But I really expect it to be a big tribute to ECW and Sabu and everybody. So then we see the video package for Matt Cardona. Basically makes him seem like the biggest American hero possible. Then we see Downstate coming in here. And They were coming in. They were like, this is the voice of our generation, downstate. And then the lead singer points to the crowd and says, "Fuck you." And everyone's like, huh? They don't really give him a big reaction. So then they play his song, and him and Jimmy Lloyd come out. Steph, she had taken Alley Catch to the hospital, so she wasn't there. And she was like, New York City, your favorite son has come home. And he was like, I don't care if you like it or if you even want to admit it. I'm the reason you're here in the Hammerstein Ballroom. I've carried this company on my back. I don't know anybody anything. And whoever comes out, I don't give a shit who the mystery opponent is. And who came out?
Tommy Invincible.
I think it was who you wanted it, though, right? Who did you think it would be?
Okay, everyone in the group chat was saying Chris Jericho, and holy shit, have I never been so excited to not see Chris Jericho, but then even more disappointed somehow. I thought, oh, maybe it's Starks. Like, they had Chris Jericho do the appearance, and then maybe they worked out things behind the scenes. And now, because that makes more sense, right?
Yeah.
Surprise debut Starks instead of announcing him beforehand. You already sold your tickets, right?
That's what I thought it would be. I said that when we talked about the show in the last show, remember? That's who I said it would be.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wish. I still don't know who the fuck they brought out.
Well, he had Invincible tattooed on his back. He was bald. He looked like the low-level indie worker on those Amazing Red shows in the mid-2000s. He did the 5-knuckle shuffle. He did the rock stuff. He did the just bring it pose. The crowd hated this. They shat all over this big time. They had no love for Tommy Invincible. And in the end, Cardona just hit radio silence for the win here. The crowd even chanted, "Who are you?" at times. I don't know. I thought it was kind of amusing that you put this random geek in. And it set up what was to come. Suddenly, Guns N' Roses starts playing. And then Microman comes out to be a follow-up. Same deal, joke match. Jimmy Lloyd pulled the ref out of the ring. Cardona hit a low blow and then one with a roll-up. I thought this was amusing, too, to be honest with you. I will say, not great. But then Cardona's like, are you fucking kidding me? Come on, I'm the champion. Somebody has to come out here and fight me. Somebody who's a real challenger. If anybody's got the balls to do it. And who had the balls? The broski. Jimmy Lloyd comes in. He takes off the headband. He goes, I'm not your broski. He kicks him, hits a pile driver, and wins the title. And these were 3 matches that were probably 5 minutes total. You can't review them on Cage Match, but they weren't anything to write home about.
No, I mean, God bless this segment for not being half an hour, because I definitely thought it was going to be. But again, this was just painful at this point in the show. You're nearing 5 hours, and it's just fuck. And I think some of this stuff may have been more charming, but I was really hitting my limit here at this point.
Oh, it was so fucking long. You could see people leaving through the crowd at this point, by the way. I think when Tommy Invincible came in is when you saw people start to leave, which is funny. As I said, I think if he were the champion, like we had seen in these types of things before, it would have been better. Where you could have put a belt on the line. here he was just like, I was the champion, and it's like, yeah, but nothing's going on. Like this whole deal is kind of pointless ultimately. Like you said, this stuff was amusing, but there was no actual point to it, and this show did not need to waste more time than it's already wasted. If this were like a 7-match show, this could have worked out really good. But as it is, like you said, I mean, at this point it was past midnight Central Time where I'm from in Memphis. And it just sucked. Like, people were leaving. They didn't want to deal with this crap. It was totally, you misread the crowd. What did you think of Jimmy Lloyd's turn?
I just would have cut straight to Jimmy. I would have had Cardona come out and be like, I can't find Jimmy. Guess I'm just going to fight on my fucking own. And then Jimmy comes out. It was like when Jimmy's a kid and then you just see Jimmy kind of crouch behind him and get ready. Like, it didn't really do anything for me. I thought the execution was pretty poor.
Yeah.
Like, you also had Jimmy come out and cut the promo for them when he first came out. Like, all hail the Deathmatch King or whatever. Like, shut the fuck up. Matt Cardona is here. And it just felt out of nowhere to me. Like, I haven't really seen this being built up in storyline. At least I don't think so. So this felt like something to get a pop, and something needed to change. I bet that this probably would have hit a lot more had SDL been there. So again, this probably isn't the vision that they had for it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was just about to say that. I was like, what you said would have been set up perfectly with Steph not being there. But instead, like if she had been there, I think this could have worked a lot better. A lot could have worked a lot better if it were different, but it didn't. I'll give him credit. I thought it was amusing enough, but like you said, in the context of it, you were right. Like, this was kind of a bullshit segment overall to have at this point. So Jimmy Lloyd's against him now. Maybe they'll work their way back to this in the future. But they worked their way back up to Mance Warner and Effie for the world title. This was when I really was like, oh, come on, because these entrances, I get that there was a main event and they were trying to make it seem like this epic deal and all of that, but it took forever just for Warner to get out to the ring, and I was like, holy crap. Like, hurry this up, man, people. So Effie started a brawl. They went to the outside. Effie tried to do like a cannonball, but Mance moved. He flew into the chairs and all that stuff. More people were walking out. You can see the background. It was kind of sad, to be honest. He ended up hitting a tombstone into a chair that was set open again. They got a near fall. And this match was like so, like, it was like a basic version of their match,
and what was especially unfortunate is they had a great blow off at Cage of Survival last year, and then this happened, and it's kind of like that's almost to the wayside now. Man, when you're running a show in a city too, like New York, like, that people have to catch trains and shit. Like, not everyone's driving there. More people, are probably taking public transit than not. So that if it's going past midnight and your main event is like slowly starting, like, you're fucking over your own talent by having this show run so long. Like, I told, like, Mance should have gotten that cool entrance, like, make it long, whatever. And it's like, it sucks that they couldn't really do that. And, I think that you could have cut this show, and I'll say this real quick. And this is like before the whole thing even happened, but imagine you do DLC, world title #1 contenders match, tag title match, Megan Bayne versus Atticus, Joey versus Tanaka, Matt Cardona, and then you go into the title match. 7 fucking matches.
Yeah, maybe do that ECW tribute match for Hammerstein special there, make it 8. But I do agree with you ultimately. And cut out the first 2 parts of the Cardona stuff, I would say, too.
Yeah.
So they come in. Warner goes for the screwdriver, and but Effie counters that. He takes the screwdriver and nails Mance with it. The crowd was just dead for this. Like, everyone was leaving. Like, it was bad stuff here. They brawl up. What'd you guys say?
I was just going to say screwdriver spot was real stupid. It's always resulted in blood throughout their feud. It's always been what's led to like a bloody visual. And so to do it here and have nothing come about it just felt like it was exposing.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. So they brought up to the stage. They grabbed one of Downstate's guitars and falled over it. But then suddenly Cole Radrick comes in. He steals the guitar and he pulls out the brass ring like he was going to cash it in. But that didn't really go anywhere on top of it. I really didn't understand that at all. Like, why did he do that? Like, overall. But he ended up giving the guitar to Effie. Effie smashed the guitar on his head. He hits the Famouser for the win. And Effie wins the title. And it was like they knew it went long, so they're like, screw it. Like, he got the title, held it up, and the show went off the air.
Which is so lackluster to go off the air so quickly.
Yeah,
it's such a big show.
It was immediate.
Yeah, and I mean, too, like, when I signed off watching that show, like, I got the fuck out of there. I was like, okay, finally. Turn off the TV, get up, run to bed, right? Like, fuck. So I get it. New York. But what do you think overall? Oh, sorry. What are you saying?
Do you think they wanted to do more with Radrick? And they just ran out of time for that with the brass ring?
No, just because Radrick already got his moment earlier in the night.
Yeah, that's why I didn't understand. Like, that was like a what the fuck moment to me.
And you know what? Assuming that my gut says that this would have been a 3-way initially, right?
I think that makes perfect sense.
So if it's a 3-way, I don't think Cole factors in.
Right.
And you might have even imagine if it's Effie handing Allie the guitar or some shit, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like that's the perfect finish for this match. Like, they come together to, like, they're reuniting. Allie gets a big moment, and like you get the feel good moment to end the show. Presumably not immediately going off the air after the pin.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they end up hugging at the end or whatever. Like, like, they would have made perfect sense if that had happened. And I feel bad that almost certainly whatever vision like Brett and everybody had for this show was not able to come together. And I think, to be honest, the show wasn't as bad as like the cage match reviews were saying it was at the start. Like, that first night after the show, this was like Heroes of Wrestling level. Have you ever seen that show?
No, I saved myself from that.
It ended up with Jake the Snake jerking off a snake. It was an all-time bad show. Like, one of the worst shows we've ever seen of anything. I've seen it, and I wish I had them. But this show was way better than that kind of bullshit show, or any WCW Thunder for 2000. All of that stuff was worse than this. But the fact is, the hype level was so high. The whole point of this show was to be a great show. Like, that's all the hype was for this. Our last show at the Hammerstein sucked. So please give us another chance so we could show you that we actually fucking rule. And instead, this is what we got. This arduous slog. Go on.
And it's crazy because, like, they rectified the mistakes they made last time. And then they just made a whole shitload of other mistakes.
Like, they overcompensated, if anything, like with some stuff.
No, it was like they put everything they had into this. It was way too much. I mean, last Hammerstein show, they went over and we got a 5-minute main event. This time they went way the fuck over, and then they said, you know what? Let's have the longest match of the night as the main event by 5 minutes. So like it was a whole different fuck up this time. And like that's what's really fascinating. And maybe it's just because here's the thing. GCW, I feel like runs shows this big. It's Showboat. They've run 1,000-person plus shows for Tournament of Survival and Homecoming Weekend and shit like that. And those shows are great. I feel like they always come in around 3.5 hours. And for whatever reason, this was not only, and I'm assuming here that there's no other GCW shows that are longer than 6 hours and 3 minutes. Like, it's just crazy to me that they didn't try to change anything on the fly. It felt like, other than the one audible with Mance coming out, right?
Yeah.
Like and you and I have said this, we didn't get to see their vision for the show, but you know what? Like with the exception of those two matches, the main world title ones, I think we absolutely saw their fucking vision for the show, because they stuck to everything in terms of, we're doing this full entrance, we're setting up the cage, we're taking down the ropes, we're doing all 3 Cardona matches. Like this, yes, we didn't get SDL in that match, but like they did. I can't imagine there being more stuff on this show at all. And like, even if, let's say Effie and Ali ended in 4 minutes, right? Yeah. Let's say they went 20 minutes. That maybe takes 15 minutes off the show.
Right.
So at that point, you don't have that unsettling tragedy, but like you still got a fucking 6-hour show. And like that, I would say, and let me know what you think, but the length seems to be the primary criticism this time around by far. Because like we said, there were good matches on the show. It's just that they were so far, and like there was so much shit in between each one. There was no way to maintain an energy or a rhythm.
I do agree with that. I think if they cut off a couple of hours on this show, I think we wouldn't see nearly the reaction that we got. Even with the injury, I think especially like the follow-up to the injury with the ambulance and the stalling and all of that like completely killed the crowd. But they were able, I praised some of the matches for like being able to get the crowd back, like the 6-man match for the ECW when he did the dive off the balcony, like everyone went nuts. I really praised them for working hard. Tom Pestock had a great showing. They tried to make things work with the main event, but the last 2 matches with Cardona in the main event were just epic fails to me. Ultimately, and maybe it could have worked out differently, but overall, you make some good points. Ultimately, a lot of these matches were already what they were anyway. And if you were going to have this 6-hour plus show, the quality just isn't enough. Even though there were some decent matches on this show, there were even a couple of good ones.
Yeah.
The problem is that as a show, it went too long, and it felt like a lot of stuff was just dragging on that didn't, like, as much as, like, okay, cool, you like the ECW nostalgia, but it's not like it really means anything in the grand scheme of things to a GCW fan base. It's just like filler matches, kind of, almost. Same thing with the Cardona stuff. I guess if you're into the Jimmy Lloyd turn, fine, but it was a waste of time that wasn't needed. The main event wasn't what they planned for it anyway, in all likelihood. Maybe it was, but I don't think so. But still, overall, your criticisms are right. I just don't think it's a 0 out of 10 show. I mean, come on,
no.
0.93. Like, that's really unfair in my opinion.
I definitely think that it's cool and easy. Like, I think a lot of people were excited to hate on this show.
I totally agree with that. I really think that opening promo caught people in a bad way, where he was like, all right, like you think you're hot shit, motherfucker? How about this zero?
How about this cage match rating?
That could affect things though in the indies. I'm sure Brett saw this. like I don't think he just fucking ignored it, to be honest with you.
No, I mean, they pay attention to this stuff because the promo video for this event was them going through all wrestling media, looking at what people were saying about them. And so again, like, how do you, like, it's not like they have to bounce back, right? But like, what the fuck do you do at, like, thank God they have the collective, and I know that's why they were waiting to announce tickets was till after Hammerstein.
Oh,
they would sell them. Oh yeah, fuck you GCW for announcing collective tickets and giving a 48 hours heads up notice for going on sale. That's really cool after it took you 4 fucking months to announce them after you said we'll announce it in October. Really great promotional work there. So frustrating. So goddamn frustrating. Sorry.
No, don't apologize.
About this before we came on the air. I was talking about it. But like, if they didn't have the collective, I see them without a path and without any fire.
First of all, to drop the ECW shit, in my opinion. Like, enough with Hammerstein. I get it that it's a historical building. You did less this time than the first time. Like, run shows somewhere else.
Congrats, you went to Hammerstein. Now, can I see you back in the showboat so I can see a fucking GCW show? Like, I don't care where you are. I don't care if you're. Remember the TWE ICW show we watched and how fiery and hot that crowd was? And that was like literally the size of where the ring was in this building.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where you are. It just matters about the energy you fucking bring. And they did not bring it. Not the GCW one.
And I think, too, they were. Like I said, I think they tried hard, though, to make this feel like a huge show. Like, you had so many video packages. You had the cameras roaming around. You had we didn't really mention this that much, but we liked the commentary, but they were kind of like somebody would come in and then somebody would leave, and then, then somebody would come in the next match. It's like they kept switching out. They tried to make it seem interesting and do production techniques and stuff to make it seem glossy and stuff, where I think GCW's rep is like the underground underdog promotion. Like, not
so that. Like, you don't need to be like, that's why I love GCW. If they ran Hammerstein shows only, I wouldn't watch this shit. Straight up. There's no blood. There's no like ultra violence. Like, that's what GCW was fucking made because Brett wanted Nick Gage to have something when he got out of jail. So we made GCW and the Nick Gage Invitational. That is the fucking blood and heart. And you just had a Hammerstein show, not only that had no blood, but no Nick Gage either. And both of those things are really fucking sad to me. And I don't want it to seem like I'm some bloodlust sicko here, okay? But it's like,
I want blood on every fucking match.
It's like, when Marvel made that Eternals movie and they're like, well, they made a 3-hour movie without action. And it's like, yeah, they just kind of forgot what you wanted there, didn't they?
Yeah, well, that movie was awful, to be fair.
And it's like, they wanted to be something, but in a place, like, it's just so weird. It's like one of those teen movies where, like, the teen changes their whole identity and the way they dress, and then they can go to that party. And then once they're at the party, it's like, it's not that I don't belong here. It's that this place isn't for me. Like, I should go to the cool place where like people need me. And the Hammerstein Ballroom does not need GCW, but there are places that do need GCW. And I hope that they focus all their resources on those places again, because I'm so fucking sick of like this. It took a very good amount of time for them to bounce back from their last Hammerstein event. Like, they lost a lot of fans, and I say this having spoken to people who were live at the event. I said, and this is some of the most diehard GCW fucking fans you've ever met. These are people who like invest time in their life to do work for them, to support them. Like, these are the real fucking fans. So what'd you think of the show? It happened. Like, man. And then they were even saying it just felt fucking long. It was just long. Mm-hmm. And like, when you even have the diehards who were there live feeling the same exact way, when you can see the audience leaving, like, it's just, it sucks. It really sucks, because you can't do this again. It's like a fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Right? There's no Hammerstein show.
Well, yeah, that's what I just said. You can't go back after this. Like, after another, you came up small again. And again, not all of it was your fault, but you did. They did have some fuck ups. Like, you were honestly on point with a lot of what you were saying. And to me, the main point is what you said about them changing their identity. Because the problem is, if they change their identity and whatever they came out with, they're trying this epic promotion, like this is their WrestleMania or whatever, and they were great at it. They knocked it out of the park. They killed it. Okay, that's different. Okay, you switched up your identity. You were this, deathmatch company. Now you're trying something different, and you fucking killed it, and everyone loved it. That's different. This would be like in the teen movie, the alternative guy, the skateboard or whatever, changed his style to be like super swag level athlete jock guy, and he goes to a party and he sucks at it and he gets his ass beat by the real jocks. Like that's what this felt like. Like, you're not even doing what you're trying to do good. Like, so stick to what you're great at.
You start the night by disparaging, again, the other promotions that have been here in the past month. And it's like, if you're going to be that specific, but you're afraid to say fucking AEW, okay, bud. Like,
he should have came out and looked at the camera. He should have yelled, "Tony Khan, fuck you and your company, and like, we will beat you every single time, and like, we don't need your bullshit wrestlers here. Like, we've got everything we need right here."
They got pictures of like fucking they have like a picture. He like comes out with a framed photograph of Chris Charlton. They do a 10-bell salute in the ring for him. Brett's like, this shit's so fucked up, man. We shouldn't be fighting each other. We should be uniting.
Well, again, if you want the spirit of, like, again, if you want that spirit of Paulie and ECW and all of that, like, fight, like, fight him, like, yell at him, like, make crazy remarks. Like, he went, like, it was such a softball speech that he had that nobody liked. And I don't think overall, like I said, have some energy, have some passion. Like, if you're pissed off, say it.
And like, here's the thing: if you're gonna talk like shit about them, right, make sure you put on a better show than them.
Well, that's the problem. Like, if he had said that, it would have looked bad anyway, considering what
Dynamite and Collision were both far superior shows.
Yeah.
Not only because they were 2 hours, but they had exceptional wrestling. It was basically like a Bola weekend with Continental Classic. Final Battle sucked, and it was still better than this. And that sucks. Like, yeah. We did not. I feel like we did not like Final Battle ultimately.
No.
Because I think that we were literally complaining about it, and then we really liked World's End.
World's End was good.
Yeah, like, oh, they fixed everything they just did wrong on Final Battle, and
except for the main event.
Yeah.
Even that was better than this main event, though. Like, the World's End main event 4-way was better than Effie's, and yeah.
And it's a bummer because I really like Mance. I like Effie too.
Me too.
And
Mance was my guy. He's one of the best indie guys to me.
Dude, yeah.
But overall, one more thing before we get on out of here. Which show was worse? The first one or the second one at Hammerstein?
It's not like, I know I can just answer this in one word, but I'm going to go on a little thing here.
Yeah.
The first show is they did a lot of things wrong again, right? and they learned from all those mistakes, but then they fucking fucked it up so bad to where I would say that this one is almost worse. Like, this one leaves more of a sour taste in my mouth than the last one does, because the last one, it's like, you know, people didn't go over, the booking decisions were bad, and it just didn't quite have that GCW energy. This time it was like people went over, but it meant nothing. You know, like, okay, Akeem got a win over Vikingo. What's next? Is he going to beat Effie for the title? No, he probably won't even get a title shot. Joey beats Tanaka, and now he's going to fight Sabu. Okay. Like, it's like, fuck. Sabu hasn't wrestled a match in 4 years, and even then, it's not like the dude really fucking, I don't know. It was just really disappointing to me. And again, the fact that it was their second time doing this, and I think that they hyped it up so much more, and that they used the criticism as the main fuel. Like, the fact that they basically said, they themselves said the first one sucked. And like, so this one's going to be perfect. And, you know, what was it? It was Orton and Edge, right? The greatest wrestling match ever.
Oh, God.
Remember that?
I remember.
And it's like, you can't do that and then have it not be it. And it wasn't. And I think that they didn't set expectations for themselves last time. Last time it was more about GCW being at Hammerstein and reaching that pinnacle. They did that. This time it was about rewriting their history and and righting their wrongs. And they did not do that in any way. The things they set out to accomplish with this show, they failed in every aspect. I think it sucks is, I will say this. They did a great job of resetting their ultra-violent division.
Yep.
They coronated new tag team champions, and that's very exciting. And everything else, I think, you know, I liked Megan Bain, I liked Atticus, but I'm talking about your world title. Like, that was the coronation of your new world champion, and it was people are leaving in the middle of it.
I think ideally you could have had all the champions in the show together. Like, you just crowned everybody, new start for the company, all like the AEW, or not AEW, the GCW originals, like coming in here, you know, you could have a big rallying cry. I think that would have been better, actually. If things, if all things had gone better, if, you know, if in a perfect world, if Allie hadn't got injured, your scenario plays out. I think I would have cut the opening promo with Brett at the start and had him come out at the end and basically be like, "This is what GCW is about." Like, cut the bullshit out, and just come back with this. And I think it would be a great ending to the show, new era of GCW, and you look forward to the future. And I don't even think that got accomplished, unfortunately. I will say, though, I think the first show was more damaging than this one will be. And maybe I'll be wrong. I think this was bad, don't get me wrong. But I think that first show had so much potential. If that show had been a hit, that would have been a major turning point for GCW. Moxley was the champion. You still had Gage around. You could have made this into something like really special. And like really elevated GCW to a next level promotion. Who knows? Maybe they could have ended up getting a fucking TV deal or something out of it, or a major streaming deal. You know, for what GCW does best. But it was such a failure. I think they ran off a lot of people that didn't give the show a chance. Like, even though they advertised it and hyped it up, and maybe I'll be wrong again. Like, but this had hype, and I think they deserve a lot of credit for the build up to this show overall. But I think that the first one was more damaging. I think this one is probably harder to watch overall because of all that made it how it is. And I think now, like you said, the ones that did come back, like that's or maybe even stuck around and maybe loved the company for what it was. I think that you've ruined the ability to do this kind of show again. Like your quote unquote WrestleMania at Hammerstein. That's off the table for a long time. Maybe if things go well for another decade or so, you might want to go for this again. But otherwise, I think that's completely off the table, and this show killed it. So I think they were both bad. They're both bad shows, no doubt. But I think they were damaging in their own different ways. I think the first one is always the one that cuts the deepest. But this was still really bad, and it may still be worse in the long term. So, yeah, disappointing show. I was really hoping this would be it.
What's funny is I texted you Monday asking if you watched it, right? Or was it Sunday night?
I think it was Monday morning.
Okay, because I was gonna be like, if Dylan didn't watch it live, I'm gonna tell him not to watch it, and I can just record a short review if he wants me to, because I'm not going to ask him to watch 6 hours of this shit. So I didn't text you asking you if you'd watched it out of excitement of like, oh my God, did you watch the show? I texted you as soon as I thought of it to save you from having to watch this.
Well, I always enjoy
that's just to say,
yeah.
Well, I think you took the words right out of my mouth. Please go ahead.
No, I always enjoy just coming on here and hanging out with you and talking about it, of course, more than anything. And I came in with a totally, I was up for this. Like, I was like, okay, major GCW show. Hey, you listen, go back and listen to our Nick Gage Invitational show. I like that show.
On that.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm into it. I like a lot of what they do. I just don't think that this was it at all overall.
If we could go back in time to last week, I say Dylan, Hammerstein, and you say, and then you realize, I say Hammerstein or Genesis. Which show do you pick us to review in retrospect?
I watched Genesis, by the way. And I did warn you not to watch that afterward. Genesis was a better show and not as long. But I think this one was kind of like the stakes were higher in a weird way for this GCW show than Genesis.
This was the bigger show, even though it was smaller technically, because Genesis was like over a couple thousand, right?
Yeah, it was good. It was a good number for them. I think it was like 4,000 or something like that. But
yeah, Genesis did 4,032. GCW did 1,761. But this was the bigger show. That is crazy.
Yeah, and this was the biggest show for GCW, like in their existence. Genesis was like, I mean, it was important for their canon, but it wasn't like their WrestleMania or anything like that overall. And this was for GCW, so I think this was more important. But I mean, Genesis was definitely a better show. Like ultimately, even though that wasn't a great show either. It was cool to see the NXT people show up. Do you have any thoughts on the NXT and TNA partnership before we get out of here? Because that was a big thing in the news.
I don't watch NXT and I don't watch TNA. So it's not really like, it's cool that it's happening. I'm all for crossover and interaction.
Yeah.
It seems to benefit TNA insanely more than it does WWE, obviously. You and I had briefly discussed before we came on about how you were like it. I think you had said something along the lines of it makes WWE look good. Like, oh, we play with the competition. We'll play nice or whatever, we're good people. And it does. I think it's still like a funny little fuck you to AEW, just in terms of like AEW had this partnership before and they've already done a lot more. They've had way more TNA talent come on their show. We got Good Brothers. That was it ever. It was horrible.
Yeah, we try to forget that.
Crazy. Okay, sorry, I'll sum it up real quick. Crazy that TNA got another Holy Mary lifeline.
Yeah, yeah, that's the main point.
Fucking Frankenstein promotion at this point. Just will not die. really cool for wrestlers on TNA and NXT. NXT people, I think, always need more reps. TNA people need more exposure. And I think that we've seen so far that the TNA people have really risen to the occasion on NXT, with Joe Hendry and Jordan Grace being the highlights. And yeah, again, I don't watch this stuff, but it's exciting for pro wrestling, and that makes me happy.
Yeah, I think so too. It's hard for me to really doom too much. I mean, the truth is, like, everyone's saying that they're like taking over TNA, and maybe that'll happen. But the truth is, they could have just signed Jordan Grace if they wanted anyway. Ultimately, and with this, you at least can get a little something out of it. I mean, Triple H was tweeting about Genesis last night, and hey, you know, it's not like I'm this huge Impact fan, but I remember at the start of last year, everybody was losing it when they fired DeMore. And ever since then, they've been on the rise ever since. I don't love a lot of the people on their roster, but I think that they're trying something different. The NXT stuff, it won't really make a big difference in the fandom unless you're already a fan, I feel like. And there could be some benefits. I don't think it'll be that much. But like you said, the differences for WWE are mainly superficial to me. They're not like big game changer things, but it gives you a little bit of extra reps for the rookie talents. And like you said, it makes them look a little better. Similar to with Noah, who knows what they want to do overall. That company, like TKO, is such a cold-blooded business machine. Nobody can predict like what they will do next overall. So, but yeah, it's fun. It's fun doing the show with you, man.
Likewise, always a pleasure.
Got anything to plug?
Always. The Hurt Syndicate, New World Tag Team Champions. That's what I'm plugging. We hurt people.
Yep, like I said, big news coming on there. I hope that they do like great deeds with them. Much better than Private Party when they were champions.
Dude, they whooped their asses. I watched it right before we hopped on the call.
That's what should have happened. Like that's what I was rooting for. And
it happened.
Yeah, absolutely. But we'll be back. We will be talking about this big stuff coming up. We got Saturday night's main event. We got Royal Rumble coming up. We'll see what else pops up along the way. Who knows what could come next? It should be a lot of fun, though. And hopefully you guys keep your eyes and ears open, because no matter what happens, you know I love you. And until next time, this has been your Wrestle Update.